That's good enough. So the body of this, the main body of this carriage stop is all finished. And what I'm doing now is just cosmetic. I'm just facing off the body of it. I faced off the two faces of it just to take off, just to smooth it out, make it look pretty now. And I'll do the same thing with this edge and the ends, take off the tooling marks that were left on there from being chucked up in the jaw. This one here I can take down a little bit farther. It's plenty deep enough the way it is, so if I take it down, well, it doesn't make any difference. Mainly just making it pretty. Now I've got it set up to true up this face here. I've got some shims in on these two sides that I just finished to protect those. So we'll go ahead and face that off. Alrighty, that I think is pretty well finished. Do a little deburring on that edges, but looks pretty good. I knocked the burrs off the edges of that. Looks pretty good. I could probably take some solvent and clean that paint off of there. Now I got to make the screw for that, for the stop on that. I've got the screws for the stop, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a handle for the one end, and I'm going to make a larger size stop that goes against the carriage off the end of the screw, and then I'm going to make a nut. I was just going to get a regular 1/4 by 20 nut and put on there for a lock nut on that, but I think I'll make one. I want to make a knob and a check screw, a check nut for this stud on this stop, carriage stop. And I also want to make a pad for it where it touches against the carriage. So I was looking at some different options on that. I've got some aluminum bar stock, round stock. I've got some 1/2 inch, and I looked at that, and that'll work okay for a stop on the end of the stud, but it's just not big enough to get enough finger pressure on to adjust the stud in and out, or to use for a lock nut. I'm just going to make a finger nut for a lock nut, and not something that I need a wrench for. So the other piece of bar stock that I got, aluminum, is 1 inch in diameter, and that is a little too big. I didn't really want to turn that down to a size that would work, say 3/4, so I got to looking around, and I've got some brass. So I've got a piece of 3/4 inch brass in there now, and that's just right for the thumb screw, thumb nut, and the screw on there. But what I'm going to do on these, I'm going to go ahead and, well, I'll drill those out. I've got to drill them out and thread them for a 1/4 inch 20. But I'm going to knurl it. So I've set up my 5C collet chuck on there, and I've got that set in a 3/4 inch 5C collet. I'm going to go ahead and center drill that so I can hold it with a center while I knurl it, and then I'll pull it out. So I've got it chucked in there, choked up pretty good in there right now. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. I faced it off. I'll go ahead and center drill that. I've got that 3/4 inch brass bar. I trimmed it down a little bit, just a little bit. It was pretty uniform. That collet chuck held it pretty steady, and it was pretty straight, so it didn't really, only took one little pass to brighten it up. And I run the knurling tool over it. That's not a very pretty knurl, but it'll work. Now I've got a 13/64 drill bit in there. That's a pilot drill for a 1/4 inch 20 thread. Alright, that gives me 2 inches of hole in there, which is more than enough. So now I got to dig out a 1/4 inch 20 tap and tap that hole. I've taken this bar stock and drilled it out, 13/64 I think that was, and threaded it for 1/4 inch 20. Then I took a bit and chamfered it a little bit right there on that end. Now I'm going to go ahead and part that off. It didn't really matter how much I parked off on there for that nut. Just take an arbitrary amount, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to run this in a little ways. Just like that. I'm going to go ahead and over a little farther. Turn that in a little bit. That way this knurled part will stand proud of the stop a little bit, so that it'll be easier to get your fingers in there and get on it. Break the edge on that. Just got a little chainsaw safety file there. Okay. Now I'll have to break that edge off there. But there's my knurled nut. Well, the 3/4 inch brass was too big in diameter for a foot for that stop. So I've got some 1/2 inch aluminum bar stock, round bar stock, and I dug it out and was going to use it. But I got to thinking, I thought maybe I might have some 1/2 inch brass, and sure enough, I got looking around, I got some 1/2 inch brass. So in keeping with the theme of the brass for everything on there, I'm going to go ahead and make that foot out of brass. So I'm going to drill this out a little ways with that 13/64 drill bit. Now I'm going to thread that 1/4 20, and I have a bottoming tap, so I'm going to tap that down in there. And then when I cut it off, that'll fit almost flush onto that stud, onto that rod. I've run a standard tap in there as far as it would go, and I've got a bottoming tap in there now. I've got a tap follower that I bought from off of Amazon, and it's a Brown & Sharp. So I've been using it, and it works pretty good. Now, even though these small taps don't have a dimple in them, a counterbore in them, or a relief in them for that, the thing still fits in the wrench in there and pushes against it, so that works pretty good. Alright, I guess that's it. Now I've got that piece of all thread. I've taken that and the knob that I made on there and put it on with some Loctite 680, which is probably maybe not the right stuff for that, but that's what I got, and so it's locked on there pretty good. I put a 1/4 inch collet in my chuck and chucked up that all thread. So I left this proud just a little bit, that all thread where it stuck through there. I just left it proud a little bit. So I'm going to trim that off so that it's even with the little thumb screw that I made. Alright, now I'm going to take this and cut it off. I don't know exactly how far to cut it off, but problem is no matter what I do here with this on, if I have this carriage stop all the way back in here where it's out of the way of the chucks, then this nut here, this is going to bang up against that. So, and if I take it out this way, then the carriage stop's going to come in against it, so I can't really use it to its full ability, I guess. But that's the way it goes. I could make more of these, or I can do something else. I could make something that would swing up and down here or screw into there with the thing coming out of that. Well, I'll worry about that for a different time. This is what I got now, and this is what I need now. So this is what we'll do now.
How long have you been out here?
A couple hours.
At least.
Well, I'm done.
Oh, good.
There it is.
Oh, you got it finished.
Yep.
Oh, look how nice that is.
Just finished it.
You got these little set screws?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, dinner is ready.
Okay. Okay.
I gotta go back because I got more dinner in the oven, so.
All right, I'll be down there in just a second. I'm all done. That's
You
it.
twist these to make it go level?
No, that's just to lock those dial calipers in there,
These?
dial indicators in there. See, they fit in through these little holes here, but they got to be loose enough to slide in, so that locks them in, so that stay in position.
And you made things, and these things?
Yeah, I made
Oh.
those.
And this too?
That end too, yeah,
Wow.
all of that. See, this is a little nut here that you can unscrew that, and then you can use this to screw this in and out. See, that's going in now farther
Yeah.
and closer, and then this tightens
We'll
up
hold it.
against that
Yeah.
to keep it from spinning.
And then these make this go to 0?
Well, this, you put this up against here,
Oh, I
and
see.
then you can see how far you're moving it.
Oh, I see. And what's this going to push against your work that you're going to be working on?
This right here, so you can tell how far this thing is moving. So there it's at 0, that's 10 thousandths, 20 thousandths,
So
30
you don't wanna
thousandths,
go very
40
many
thousandths,
thousandths.
50 thousandths, whatever. That tells you how deep, where you're going. And you get it set, and then it comes up against that hard stop there.
I
So
see.
that you can make repetitive
Oh, I
cuts
see.
down into a certain
Oh,
depth.
okay.
That's what that's for.
Oh.
All right, there's the carriage stop completed. It's on there tight with this steel bar underneath there, tightens down real good. After doing that, I could have just used one bolt on there instead of two, but some's good, more is better. So the dial indicator fits in there, and you can just tighten it, and it'll just stay right there. But if I turn it over like this, where you can see it better, well, I can do that. But then it runs into this nut here, this bolt here. So this is the pad that I made. I was originally thinking about gluing it onto that stud, but I got thinking if I did that, then I couldn't get it off. I couldn't take this stud out of there to put a longer one in or something if I needed to. And there's the little knurled nut, and I just loosen it up and move this in or out like so, and then just tighten that up. Tighten it up finger tight, now it won't move. Well, there's the thumb nut, or thumb head of that, to loosen that nut, and there's the head that moves it in and out. One of the problems here is you can't push this back in very far to clear the chuck, because all this stuff then, like the dial indicator, well, it's got to be far enough out that the probe there has room to clear on the back, and the nut and everything, or the screw and everything, has to be able to clear on the back. Well, I built this so that it would fit on this portion, the fixed portion of the carriage, and I could have put it down lower to fit on the box, and then you'd think it'd go back farther, but the gearbox goes on there when that gets put back together, so that wouldn't have given me any more room. So this comes back here, and that little foot works just perfect. That goes flat against there. It doesn't hit the way wiper there at all. It just misses it, and it gives a little bit more spot on there than what I had with just the screw on there. So I like that. And comes back, and the probe just hits there. I'm not going to have full movement on the probe because of the length that sticks out, that it can't come back all the way because of that foot that I put on there, but well, that's the way it is. That's better than what I had before. Of course, I could always get a dial indicator with a longer probe on it if I needed to. That dial indicator fits in that lower hole, and most of them fit in that lower hole. So this other dial indicator is my metric one, and the shank on it coming out of the dial indicator is smaller in diameter than the other ones that I have. So that has a little different hole in it. That's up just a little bit higher, and that still fits right there. But it doesn't have any movement in it like that, so that's not a good deal. So I guess what I have to do on that is to take the stop off of there, And if I use this dial indicator, I'm just going to have to get a longer dial indicator, a metric one with a little longer probe on it. I guess, you know, like I said, I could take this stop off of there, then set up my depth, and then put the stop in. Anyhow, that's it. That's my carriage stop. One job finished. Now I've got that. Now I can cut the pockets in those blanks for the bearings, the bearing pockets in those blanks for the guide rollers for the bandsaw mill. Not that I couldn't have cut them before, but now I don't have any excuse for not cutting them to the right depth now, let's say.